Hello, my good friend. So, first things first, yes, I know my hair is still kind of wet and a little bit messy. That's because it is very cold outside. It is also very humid, and my hair got wet in the rain, so I had to wash it, and it's this whole big thing. And when you have curly hair, it is not just as easy as going and wrenching your hair out and coming back. Curly hair is a challenge. So, that being said, we're going to talk about books today for Bookmas number 4. Let's get started. Okay, so I said we were talking about books. More specifically, we're talking about evil books. We are talking about the 5 most evil books ever written and why we should not ban them. In the state of Texas, book banning is rampant. They have infiltrated our schools and libraries and banned the hell out of some books. We don't ban books in my classroom. I have been thinking about making a video of books you will never find on my classroom bookshelf. Obviously, that's very different from book banning. One of them is 5 Feet Apart. I don't really want my students reading that book because it's about two 17-year-olds specifically breaking medical protocol and putting their lives at danger when they have a severe chronic illness. Obviously, if my student shows up to school with that book, I'm going to say I don't like it, but I'm not going to stop them from reading it. Let's get started. In order of, I guess, what I consider evilness, we are going to start. So, the 5th most evil book ever written, in my opinion, is the Anarchist Cookbook. Now, the Anarchist Cookbook is basically a terrorist how-to guide. This book played a big role in the Columbine massacre. I may make a video about Columbine and school shootings later, but what a lot of people don't know is that Columbine wasn't really a successful shooting. It was a failed bombing, and Dylan and Eric used the Anarchist Cookbook to create pipe bombs and explosives, and that's what the book's there for. It's a cookbook, how to make bombs. Out of all the books I'm going to talk about, I feel like this one is the most reasonable to ban. That being said, it's not going to stop people from getting that information. And I realize the whole, people are going to break laws, so why should we put things into law anyway? I just feel like banning this book does open up the slippery slope of book banning. Once we ban this, once we censor all this, what else can we censor? And I know that is a fallacy, but I am not naive enough into thinking that this is something that could not possibly happen. And I think we shouldn't ban this book just because of historical significance and because it can kind of shed light on, hey, this isn't the Anarchist Cookbook and my son's bringing it home. There's a problem here. So, book banning, we just don't do because we do not censor ideas. We just don't ban books. So, the Anarchist Cookbook is the 5th most evil book ever written. I think it is not good. I am upset that it was ever written. At the same time, all that banning it will do is just ban a book. It's not going to stop terrorists. So, there we go. All right. Number 4. The 4th most evil book ever written is a book I actually own. It's The Prince by Machiavelli. You can see it says used saves. That's because I had to read it in college. Actually, I had to read it as a college freshman. And there is a lot of speculation or just opinions that this book is satire. I really don't know enough about Machiavelli to determine his authorial intent. But what it comes down to is that the content of this book, the words written in it, are evil. So if this was meant to be taken seriously, then yes, it is evil. If it wasn't meant to take seriously, that doesn't change the fact that the words in it are evil. So let's see. It is sufficient simply not to break ancient customs and then to suit one's actions to unexpected events. Basically, what this book is saying is that rulers should abuse their power, and that's all that makes them good rulers. This encourages abuse of power. In fact, Stalin had it on his nightstand. Why should we not ban this book? Because it is basically a big flashing light saying, hey, if someone you know thinks these things and acts this way, they're being abusive. That's reason enough not to ban it. And I think, honestly, this book, especially compared to the Anarchist Cookbook, kind of harmless. I mean, it's just Machiavelli's opinion. So, there you go. Number 3. This book is called The Pivot of Civilization by Margaret Sanger. Now, Margaret Sanger is kind of a beacon in women's rights because she pioneered effective birth control. She is the founder of Planned Parenthood, which is where a lot of women get birth control. It's not just an abortion factory, although I have opinions about abortion too. Anyway, this book is basically Sanger's manifesto when it comes to eugenics. Now, if you don't know what eugenics is, it is basically genetic engineering in humans to develop a master race. At the time this book was written, in like the 20s, there was a huge eugenics movement going on in the United States. A friend of mine told me that even Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone, wanted to use eugenics to eliminate deaf people. Very, very evil that any kind of person who has any sort of defect, no, you're not worthy of being a human, so we're going to eliminate you from our species. Pretty evil, right? Well, I don't think this book should be banned for the basic reason that eugenics is still going on in the US, especially in the government. Now, you may call me crazy for saying that, but let's look at the military. They won't accept you if you have any kind of minor defect. You could be a gang member and get into the army, but gosh darn it, if you have asthma, no. You could be a convicted criminal and want to join the Coast Guard, but if you have chronic migraines, you are just not good enough. So the fact that they will take people who do horrible things, yet will not take people who have issues that are outside their control, like asthma, diabetes, chronic migraines, depression, is pretty messed up and just reeks of eugenics. There we go. Number 2. You knew this one was going to be on the list, guys. It's Mein Kampf. I mean, it translates to my struggle. It's Hitler's manifesto of, his master race, how he blames the Jews for everything. It's about as evil as you can get. Why shouldn't we ban this? Because this book is a warning that crazy people say crazy things, and if they're crazy enough to say it, they are crazy enough to do it. Case in point, I'm using a book to hold up my computer right now, which is my camera. I'm using my webcam. There's a book called They Want to Kill Americans about the Trump insurrection. These people were all over Twitter and Facebook and Discord and everywhere posting about what they were going to do. And people just ignored it because they were crazy people. I think Mein Kampf probably should have showed us that crazy people, evil people, do evil and crazy things. Speaking of doing evil and crazy things, in my opinion, the most evil book ever written is The Witch's Hammer, otherwise known as the Malleus Maleficarum. This book was the how-to guide for the Inquisition, and because of the Inquisition, millions of women were burned at the stake simply for being misunderstood. Obviously, there are no witches. I mean, clearly. I'm not going to get into religion in this video, but we will get into the oppression of women. This book specifically targeted women, and when it was written in the 1400s, women were way more vulnerable than they are now, as if we're not vulnerable enough. But this was just a classic case of things that are going on still now, of men thinking that they understand women, that they understand women enough to tell us what we can and can't do, and to completely eliminate us if they don't understand us. Which, not understanding women, so we need to get rid of women and accuse them of false crimes, basically just tells me that you are scared of us. Misogyny is rampant in the United States. I even had somebody recently tell me that I'm just a woman. I don't mean what I'm saying. When women say things, they mean the exact opposite. Why should I listen to you? That kind of stuff still goes on. Women are like so low on the tier of America's priorities. Obviously, we're gonna go back to Margaret Sanger and abortion. So many men and even women put the little idea of something, a clump of cells that will eventually become a baby, over a woman's wants and desires. Like, women are sentient beings. It's not about babies. And I think this book is very, very timely because it says, hey, it's not about witchcraft. It's about women, and they don't have the right to live. So abortion is not about babies. It's about women's rights to decide what to do with their body, whether it hurts something or not. So take this analogy. This is a very obvious analogy. So my mother has the same blood type as me. If I need a blood transfusion and she hooks herself up to a needle to give me that blood, then changes her mind, she still has the legal right to take the needle out of her arm, even if it means my dying. And pregnant women don't have that right anymore in the United States. Depending on the state you live, I'm in Texas. Yes, so in Texas, pregnant women no longer have bodily autonomy. We all know that story of the 10-year-old who was R-worded and had to go to Indiana or wherever, Ohio, I think, to have an abortion. So this book, The Malleus Maleficarum, is such a giant signal of how terrified people can be of women. And that fear and that oppression of women, I believe, over all of eternity, is one of the most evil things to have ever existed. Yes, anti-Semitism has been around for forever, but have Jews been around for forever? No. Women have been abused. We have been burned at the stake. We've been hanged. We've been drawn and quartered. We've been beheaded simply for having personalities and for doing things to men in power, men like the prince described here, that we've just been done away with historically, and it's still happening. There are still countries that stone women to death. There are still countries that make it illegal to wear anything. This is all you get to see women, not even hair. So this might be the most controversial video I ever make, but I am not for book banning at all. I am for the protection of children, but I think the best thing we can do, instead of taking books away from children, is to teach children not to be scared of stories. So that's it for me on Vlogmas Day 4. I'm probably not even going to edit this video. I'm just going to upload it and see what happens, because I'm getting a little tired. It's the end of the day. So that's it for me. Keep reading, keep writing, keep loving words, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.